First of all, welcome to everybody. We're glad to see a nice crowd here and a crowd at home as well. And so welcome to you in your quarters and your jammies. Okay, I want to say a word about these meetings that we have monthly, if I can. I'm just going to have this very quickly. But we have 12 of these a year. And they are the times set aside. We set aside 90 minutes to talk to you about things that are important. And Joey and I and others have talked. And what we try to do is give you about a half hour from the company and the things that are important there. You'll get a half hour from the resident council, things that we're working on from either me or one of the committee chairs. And then there'll be some time at the end, which we're going to try to make sure you always have time for to listen to you. So there'll be some time at the end to put things on the table. Now we do ask one thing about things you put on the table. My memory is a little weak and my note-taking ability is about the same level. So if you got something you put on the table, give it to us in writing at some point, because that will help. Yes, Joy?
Building E has a meeting at noon, so we may have to sneak out early.
You'll be out by noon, I promise. Okay? So here we go. So there's 12 of these a year, every quarter, and every quarter it's called a 651 meeting. Why 651 meeting? Because 4 times a year we have to meet with our provider, and Joey is the representative usually of that provider. So that's 651 meetings. Those are also the meetings where we learn about important things like fee increases, monthly fee increases. So that's what these are for. We really encourage you to be in attendance at these meetings. So today, what's the agenda? Well, it's the next slide if I can get to it. Whoops. Oh, nuts. How's that? Well, I've got another comments. This is the agenda, but I wanted to add to my welcome and tell you that we have some new residents in the crowd today that I'd like to identify, and they're going to stand up, and then we're going to give them a round of applause as a welcoming. Okay, who we got today? Is Lee and Jerry Evans here? Lee and Jerry? Okay. Continue to stand up. You're getting one round of applause for all of you. We got to know who you are. Thank you for being here, Jerry. Barbara Snyder, fellow 545. That's Barbara. And another not old friends, but friends, Steve and Diana Cassetta. Diane? Oh, here we are up front and personal. John Leahy. John up and then. And then I didn't see Paul and Karen. Did Paul and, oh, they are here. Stand up, Paul and Karen. And they're in building B 102. So now you can give them that round of applause. Welcome all of you. Gives me a special note for you is, oh yes, who, Barbara?
She just came in, Barbara. Barbara's excellent, came in right on cue.
Okay, Barbara. Consider that round of applause as you went. Now the second part of this. Two of these people I've known for a number of years, ever since I've been in Florida. So Steve, Diane, Barbara, we've known each other a long time, so we're infiltrating the place is what we're telling you. Okay. This is, for me, a revision of an old practice. At one time, whenever we got new people in here, what do? The representative from that building or the villa would bring them in, introduce them, and I'd like to do that at every meeting. Every time we get a new rep, a new resident, it's good to welcome them, stand up so we see in their face, we know who they are. Okay, I got one other thing. Every year when we start, whoever the chair of the resident council is gets a letter from Joey attaching the 651 document, and that chair has to sign for that document. Now the question is, what do I do with it? So I decided to do this with it. In the lounge by the Heron, there'll be a book called The Residents Reading Book. And the Residents Reading Book contains that chapter 651 of Florida statutes. It's a document which you probably should have read before you moved in. It's that important. It's what the legislature, and if I have to sign for it, then you ought to be able to read it. In that book, as well as that document, you'll have the resident handbook. Why am I bringing that up? Well, we had a number of questions not long ago about what is the commitment to keeping residents in their place. Well, move over, is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you. About the commitment to keep people in their units even if they run out of money. That information is covered in the 651, it's covered in the resident handbook, which you have, and so that resident handbook's been put in there as well. And you also have next in a book very close by, the bylaws and the standing rules of this organization. So if you want to know what's going on, that's one book you can grab and have the most authoritative stuff I know. In addition to that, we put in some of the FLICRA and NACRA stuff, the Florida Life Care Residents Association. And that's an organization we can't do without, and we're told that the current percentage of people who belong is down around less than 70%. And it's an organization that I think everybody here ought to seriously consider being a part of. So their newsletter is in there. You all had questions about the cost of living increases. FLICRA did a beautiful expose in their April edition of the cost of living. That comes to you. That's the sort of thing they do. So that information, and then I put in some newsletters that I get off of the senior housing sites. Because there's a lot to this business of senior housing. It's not the usual business model. So it's worthwhile to broaden your own understanding of what the senior housing business is all about. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm going to get off in 7 minutes, okay? And hand this over to Joey, who will now take you through the company side of the house. Joey?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, nice to see so many of you, and welcome to our new residents. Love to see you joining part of our community, and hopefully you find this a beneficial update. We do have special guests. One is here with us, Chris. Just give a little wave. Chris is I think, support specialist. Is that the correct? Operations specialist, but that does not give him true justice. He has extensive experience in community operations, especially as an executive director, and will be supporting the community operations side of things. And we welcome him to Village on the Green. We get to see a little sneak peek into our life here. Welcome to all of those watching from home. The presentation is posted to Touchdown, so if you want to follow along, or if it's not translating well on the screen, feel free to pull that up on Touchdown. Just to piggyback off a couple of Basil's comments, Chapter 651 does contain the cure for insomnia. You have to read it very carefully, but you will find it. I promise you. And when you can also find that on Touchdown. Under administration, I have a folder for Office of Insurance Regulation, so I have the latest 2023 copy posted to that as well. You'll find our quarterly reports that are filed with OIR, as well as a few other OIR-related documents on Touchdown as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. I always start with the balanced scorecard, right? This is kind of our guiding star, in that whatever I do from a community operations perspective, I'm always looking back at how does it advance one of these 4 items, and that's team member engagement, resident satisfaction, occupancy, and then financial health. Each one of the metrics that falls under that. So I'll go through a little brief update and give you some other goings on here at the community level. So December, we have December's financial results. As kind of expected, we had a good December. If you recall, we had 10 closings in December, which brings with it the associated processing fees. That's the 5% of the entry fee brought in, so that's a nice boon to the bottom line there. So our net operating margin, we had a positive $340,000 in December. If you would recall, we had been kind of running a bit of a deficit throughout the year, so we closed the year in the red by $95,000. So we actually did kind of close that gap there pretty well, which I want to kind of compliment our department directors, because a good portion of that is some good expense control and better practices established throughout the year, especially with the implementation of Workday, that important labor management tool. Thank you, because residents and specifically resident referrals led to a banner year for sales, and the number of resident referrals moving into the community, that certainly helped. We had a couple of things hanging around our neck last year. If you recall, the kind of rude surprise our property insurance agent gave us in June, that the cost for property insurance was going to start going up almost $100,000 a month from June on. So, buried in that $95,000 hole is really $600,000 of unanticipated property insurance costs. So I will say, obviously want to end in the black, but kind of to finish where we did, I'm pretty pleased with the team. If you recall, 2022, we were in the hole by $2.5 million. So, we've kind of come a long way. And obviously, rate increases certainly go towards supporting that, but hopefully you've kind of seen our commitment and demonstration throughout the year that we're going to be good stewards of those funds that you give us. So that's where we are from kind of getting into the revenue a little bit further by level of living. Independent living, that's where you see that positive number there, right? It's been a long time since we've seen that positive. It's not positive in January, unfortunately, but we at least had some good revenue numbers there, and again, that's that processing fee. Skilled nursing really was the only area where our census was a little soft and our payer mix was a little off, so you saw that kind of come under revenue projections. But again, home health, community-wide, assisted living, all doing very well from a revenue perspective. From expenses as well, labor continues to be a big focus on making sure we do a good job managing that. You'd seen kind of community-wide on the expense side, we had some positive credits come through that really helped us, and that was a lot of adjustments. So whenever there's a workers' comp claim or a litigation case, our attorneys will go ahead and put holds on, hey, this is potentially how much settlement or legal fees you're going to incur. And then at the end of the year, they go, let me see, let's true it up. What did we actually? So we got a lot of positive momentum out of that as well. So overall, I think expenses seeing good habits take hold, and continuing to see our directors kind of toe the line on where they need to on that. From an occupancy perspective, currently, as of today, occupancy is 79.39%. That 80% threshold continues to elude me there. We have 208 occupied out of 262 units. From an attrition perspective, we've had one resident vacate their unit formally in January, and we have another 4 pending. And these are related to when a resident passes on or a resident needs to move to a higher level of care. That's where you see the attrition from IL moving on out. Our projection is 29 for the year, and that's again something we want to beat, right? So if we kind of meet our sales goals or exceed those sales goals, and we can keep residents in independent living longer, that helps our overall occupancy. From a sales perspective, we did not have any closings in January. We have 3 deposits on the books, and we're targeting 48 sales for the year. I will say there's a lot of good activity in the sales department right now. I think we might even pick up a deposit/closing as soon as next week. And then we've got probably 3 or 4 more deposits that possibly today and into next week we're going to start picking up. So I kind of attribute that to having the whole team together, gelling, clicking. Our new interim chief marketing officer, David Polston's been on site and has already given us some important tools that have been incredibly helpful to tailor our marketing approach to the local market. So I think as the year goes on and he really gets to kind of take hold, we're going to see some additional improvements there in our abilities to reach prospective residents. One of the kind of things that I throw out there just as a heads up to you, especially because resident referrals are so important. If you remember last year, we kind of had like every month, there was like a flavor of the month of, here's what a resident referral gets, and it was too much, right? It was too much, too soon, too often. By the time you figured out what 1 month was, you'd moved into the next month. So one of the things we'd asked of David, and he has jumped right on, is more of an evergreen program. Hey, this is what our resident referral program is. It doesn't matter if it's this month, next month, the month after that. You know with confidence, what's in it for you, B, what's in it for the prospective resident. And I think that's more of a meaningful tool to have in your box when you're talking to prospective residents as well. So we're looking forward to that evergreen program coming out here very shortly, and I'll definitely share details with you because you are our greatest advertisement out there. So. Team member updates. Shalanta Campbell, who was our AL outreach coordinator, is no longer with Village on the Green. Right now, Missy, the administrator of the Oaks, is going to be handling the assisted living sales admissions process over there. Mark Zollo, not Zulo. There was a big kerfuffle as to it's not Z-U-L-L-O, it's Z-O-L-L-O. So if you're saying, hey, that's a typo, no, the other one was a typo. But Mark started with us on Monday, has jumped right in. I think some of you have had a chance to meet him just informally in the dining room. He is with Switch. Switch Joko is our interim and is going to be here really probably through the end of March, helping Mark get acclimated to Village on the Green, to LifeSpace, to Unidyne systems. So we're thankful for Switch remaining here in his role. Mark will be at the culinary committee coming up tomorrow and is jumping right in with my choice and all the things we got going on. But he brings a extensive experience with him, is very familiar with senior living, and I think you'll find him to be a good addition to our community. Xavier and Lenny continue on in their interim capacities, both for plant and for housekeeping, and we continue to recruit for a sales counselor. That's that last position on the sales team. We still have Teresa Carter, who's a sales specialist, but really, the company needs to move her to other communities that need help, so we want to make sure we hire that position so we can round out our team there. My choice, so been doing a lot of presentations between myself and Javier, had good attendance, good questions, so really appreciate your engagement with this rollout. Just high level, remember this is March 1st, automatically happens. You don't have to raise your hand for it. You can opt out of it, but effective March 1st, it goes into implementation. This is, instead of the 1 meal credit per day, you get 600 points per month. Regardless if it's 31, 30, 28, 29 days, it's 600 points per month. A couple of the nuances, we've broken the residents into 2 groups, group 1, group 2. Group 1, those are the A, B, C buildings, and villas 1. Group 2, D, E, F, and villas 2. Group 1, your cycle is the first of the month, and your points expire on the last day. Group 2 is still points issued on the 15th of the month, expire on the 14th of the month. That is one of those things we're still taking a look at. Someone, Sue had quite astutely pointed out there'd be a little bit of a better break if we did, I think, the 15th, 16th. So we're taking a look at that, but right now it's still 15th, 14th. So what does that look like on March 1st for our Group 2 residents? You'll get 300 points. 300 points on March 1st, which will expire on right now March 14th, and then you get your 600 points on the March 15th, which will carry you through April 14th. Residents in Group 1, you don't have to worry about any proration. You get that 600 points on the 1st that runs you through March 31st. You're going to get a letter from me either the end of this week or beginning of next week, just confirming your group, your cycle, what that looks like. If you're in Group 2, just a little bit more about that proration. It's also going to have your username and your temporary password. This is for the online system that will initially be used to see your receipts online. Again, it's an optional system, but highly encourage you to get into that and get used to it, because that's also the tool that we're going to use to bring online ordering. Again, an optional element, but one I think many of you will welcome. Instead of having to use the telephone system, which we all know and love, you'll have an option to do the online ordering system as well through this same process. So I have e-building at noon, I have F-building at 4 o'clock, and then next week my attention kind of turns to the one-off appointments. So, you know, some of our residents who may not want to come out in a group setting, Javier and I are going to be doing in-home visits to make sure everyone's aware, because it does affect everybody in independent living. Any questions about that? Sorry, I've been kind of cruising. I got my 30-minute limit today. Community wireless. So this is the installation of the infrastructure, right? This is like the brains, the nervous system for all the wonderful programs that are coming on down the pipe later, such as Care Predict, the replacement of the pendant system, also potentially the backbone for replacement of senior TV. This is that infrastructure that's going to be installed. This will begin on Monday, February 12th. The vendor, Granite, will be on site. Essentially, they're going to start with laying fiber optic cables, so there's going to be some bidirectional boring, some trenching, some disturbance of the earth as they run those cables. Then once they do that, they'll be establishing the server rooms throughout the campus, kind of the little brains everywhere. And then from the server rooms, they're going to be running conduit all the way up to your front door. Now this current work, this phase is focused on buildings A through F, so it doesn't apply to the villas at this time. But the residents in A through F are going to see the Granite crew start working closer and closer, up to the point where they're going to run cable right up to the front of your door, and they're going to leave it there. And then end of March, beginning of April, will be the final home run, which is the installation of an access point in your home. Okay, and at that point, we're going to set out a schedule, let you know how long, what day the crew is going to be out. The crew is going to be escorted by a Village on the Green team member, but that's basically taking that conduit outside your front door, bringing it inside your home, installing the access point right inside your front door. Takes about 20 to 30 minutes, but we'll be putting out a schedule for that so you're aware in advance of when that work will occur. But that's really late March, mostly April. They're scheduled to finish this project in May. It might beat that a little bit, but there's going to be a lot going on between Windows, which we'll talk about in a minute, and wireless and all the other projects. So this is a big one kicking off here that you're going to see, folks. We are going to give them some vendor badges. Let me come back to you, Marjorie. Some vendor badges so you can just see, since there's so many people on site, that you can say, hey, yep, you know what, they got a Village on the Green badge as an authorized vendor. Yes, Marjorie.
What happens to villas in the meantime, and when is the villa work going to be done?
So the villa work is going to be, the question was, what about the villas? When does that work occur? So the villas are being done by a different vendor. It's a little bit of a different system. Right now, I don't have details on when that work is happening, but all of that has to occur before we're able to roll out systems like Care Predict, which we're actually slated to start doing here in the summer. So I don't have those details for the villa residents just yet, but I think in short order I should have something for you on how that's going to work. It'll be a very similar system, I think, in terms of cabling and whatnot to the villa, and then ultimately an installation of an access point within the villa. Les?
Yeah, right now, I believe that the fiber optics is the fastest commercial cable out there for telecommunications, at least for these kinds of residential settings. And I understand the villa is not going to have that. So I think the people in the villa need to know the speed differences and other technical details of what they're getting and how much potentially they might lag in services compared to the people in the apartments.
So I guess what I would say to that is I don't have the final specifications of exactly what the villas are going to have. I would say also it's important to remember that most systems are not strictly one type of cabling or another, right? So like currently right now, our internet is fiber optic through Spectrum. But it comes to a point where it runs into a head unit, and then from there it's a traditional coax speed. So, you could have a fiber optic cable bringing you, 1,000 horsepower, but then at the end of the day, if it's coming in through a little straw, what does that 1,000 horsepower really do for you? So, I certainly agree. Fiber optic is, the latest and greatest, and probably the best way to go. But I would doubt that you have a fiber optic line all the way to your, wireless modem, really in any scenario. I mean, that's a pretty tall task for us to pull off right now. Because if you imagine, if we start changing the cable inside the walls of your home, you are not going to love us, that's for sure. But if we can provide you a wireless high-speed access, now, high speed, I'm sure you could debate what the speeds are, but one of the things that's really important, for this infrastructure perspective is like that Care Predict. That's a system that really cannot fail, right? If we're telling you, hey, this is going to be used as an emergency call system, we have to have the coverage, we have to have the reliability, we have to have redundancy there. And I think that is the intent through which we're, building this infrastructure. We're going to be going through a project now that kind of popped up, is that we need to provide emergency power to all of these server rooms. So now I have to kind of figure out how I get generator power to all of these places so that we have that continuity during power outages even. So a lot of moving parts to it. Definitely will share the technical specifications with you as soon as I get my hands on them, so that you're aware of what that looks like for you. But I know there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But I definitely appreciate your perspective on it.
Joey,
Yes.
why do the villas have a different vendor than the buildings?
I think it's just it's from a contractual perspective, what each vendor is really capable of. The vendor working in the apartment buildings is used to that high density environment. They're used to, potentially there's core drilling involved because of the concrete nature of our floors. Our buildings are post-tension cable, which requires a specialty to make sure you don't hit those cables that are in the concrete. If you don't need to use, an Uber specialist to do all of the work, you can save yourself some money on the install perspective. If you think about, again, it also kind of goes back if they're running fiber optic cables or not, but you can use probably a more traditional cabling company to run to the villas if you're just, boring through the ground and bringing it to the outside of a house. So you don't necessarily need that Uber specialist network cable installer to be charging you however many dollars per hour to do a home. And it's also, there's currently the way the buildings are set up from like a networking perspective. The villas are on one leg and the apartments are on another leg. So it kind of sets itself up to being able to say, okay, fix this leg first, do this leg with a different vendor or a different methodology if you need to. Questions? Good ones, thank you. Building window, did I skip one? No. Building window replacement. So I think many of you had a chance to see, at least from the outside, the test unit A208 that has been done. We are really just waiting for the windows to show up for A building. We were expecting them yesterday, now we're expecting them tomorrow. So our contractor is all staged up, ready to go. We just need windows to be able to put in. So as soon as those windows arrive from the manufacturer, we will put out the schedule. Originally we were supposed to start this week. Now we're looking at next week. I think now we're probably at the end of next week. It's only going to take us about a day or two to get going from a work perspective as soon as they arrive. So it'll be a quick turnaround on that. So we're just waiting on the windows to arrive. We're projecting 30 to 45 days for A building. Buildings B, C, and D have been approved from a funding perspective, so that's the $2.4 million that we've set aside for that. And we're going to begin measurements in B building, interior measurements in the coming weeks. So Lenny's going to be coordinating that, and that's the information we use so that we can get that to the manufacturer. They can give us the initial quote. We can do the deposit for the materials and whatnot. So, while we're still just at the very beginning of A building, we are getting spun up for B building as well. so that hopefully it's a fairly seamless transition from A is complete, we move right into B, C, and D. E and F most likely, I think based on the timing and the hurricane season kind of right around the corner, we'll most likely look to push that to 2025. It's budgeted for 2025 anyways, so to do that in 24 would take some wrangling, but at this point, just given the seasonality of it, I don't want to be doing window changes with the storm bearing down on us, so we'll probably do E and F in the beginning of 2025, but try and get that all approved and greenlit and paid off so that hopefully in the very beginning, January, February, we're doing E and F. Okay, community entryway. So plans for updating the clubhouse entry, the porte-cochere area, and the service yard, those continue. The project team is going to be on site Wednesday, March 6th to do a presentation to residents to give the latest update on what that project entails and what it will look like. I will be watching that presentation eagerly as well. So I encourage you to come out so that, I've always said I always want to give you the opportunity to provide that feedback. I have a feeling that is the next kind of opportunity to do it. So I don't want to assume that we're going to get that and have a whole bunch of time to be able to review it and provide feedback. So I encourage you to attend on the 6th so that we can give our feedback right there on the spot to the project team. Okay. The unnamed opportunity continues to be unnamed. However, we are still working on it. The Ouija board says yes, maybe, or the Magic 8 Ball says signs look good. But as soon as we get some further traction and we're released from our confidentiality agreements, I'll be able to actually talk about it and make some sense for you. I want to turn it over real quick to Christopher. Christopher, come on up. He's going to talk to you about our Be Active program and an opportunity for residents.
All right, hey everybody. I see a ton of familiar faces and a ton of not familiar faces, so I'd love to get to meet every one of you guys. I'm Chris, I'm the therapy director here on campus, so I love meeting new people and I love touting the benefits of having outpatient therapy right here on property for y'all, so you don't even have to leave, so we'll talk about that later. As a bunch of you might remember from last year, we did an event called Be Active, and that was a very good event. We had a great turnout, and we're doing it again. So it's on March 1st at from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. You can see or call Sue up here in the front desk, and she's got a little sign-up sheet, and we're signing people up in like 15-minute intervals. And what it is I have a very close relationship with the physical therapy program at the University of Central Florida. That's where I graduated from. And so the students in the physical therapy program, they're earning their doctorate right now. They come and they visit us in this room, and they have different stations set up, and they give different aspects of the senior fitness test. So what they do is they give you tests, and they see how your balance is, how your strength is, and they basically tell you how good you're doing compared to normative values or compared to a normal person of your age and gender. So it's a fall risk assessment. So it is good information to have for y'all. We keep that information, and when we do this activity a couple times a year, we can kind of compare you to your past self. And that's important because, as we all know, right, the best medicine actually is exercise. That's the best medicine. There's nothing better. So come on out because it's fun. I hear it's fun for y'all to interact with the kids. And the kids, getting this experience with your retirement age population is invaluable. It is, because all they do is practice on each other all day long. They need real people to practice with. So, that's all I got. Like I said, talk to Sue and sign up with Sue, and you'll get. I'll send out one more door hanger before the event as a last-minute reminder. But thanks for your time. Call me if you have any questions. Just call the health center and say, "Give me Chris." Thanks, Joey.
Kind of one more plug I'll make for. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you for taking this
I wanted you to know that I am starting my 29th year here at Village of the Green.
Amazing, amazing, congratulations.
I have absolutely nothing but praise for it. And I thank you especially for the wonderful job that you have been doing. Since I have been here so long, you know we've had 2 or 3 other bosses.
I've heard there's been a couple.
And I want to thank you so much for the good work you're doing. And I can't tell these people, all these nice residents, how much I have enjoyed living here.
That's wonderful.
I miss my husband, but the friends that I have made, it's been wonderful, and thank you so much.
Thank you, that's very kind of you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for waiting until Zach was here. Zach, everybody, Zach Jacobson, our Regional Vice President of Operations in the house. Also another special guest, Brad Bodie, our new Executive Director at Abbey Del Rey South. So we're very glad to have all those gentlemen here. Gift cards in the mail. The other just wrapping up with Chris, I would say, it provides a great baseline. Right? And if you think about this is being, a Be Active program being done every year, or maybe when you are concerned there's a decline, you can have that assessment done, and then you can kind of see, hey, have there been any changes to my balance or my strength that I want to specifically address? So another kind of great opportunity for that proactive wellness on your part. Important to note, I know it's been in the community update, but there is another town hall. It's next week on Friday, the 16th. We have members of our senior leadership team from LifeSpace, Jesse Jansen, Nick Harshfield, Brian Robbins. They'll be here to do, meet with our finance committee at 9 o'clock, but at 11 in the Longwood room, so right here, they're going to be doing a little bit of a town hall. So kind of a state of the enterprise and an opportunity to kind of dialogue directly with our senior leadership, so I invite you to attend that. As Basil had said, I need to give you a statutory 14-day notice that our next meeting is our quarterly Chapter 651 meeting. So I'm beating that 14 days by giving you formal notice here. It is the same presentation essentially, however, it does qualify for that Chapter 651 meeting. So that'll be Wednesday, March 13th here at 10:30. Any questions? I think I'm still on schedule. Richard?
Can you address the housekeeping modifications?
Yes. Richard had asked, thank you for reminding me, sir, to address the changes to the housekeeping schedule. I think we could have done a better job kind of communicating the why behind making those adjustments. So thank you for the opportunity for reminding me. Why do we make adjustments to our team member schedules and ultimately to your housekeeping schedules? One of the items that, as we go through our Net Promoter Score survey and we look at resident satisfaction, obviously culinary, big driver right there, work orders and your satisfaction around that process, a big one. The next one, believe it or not, is around housekeeping services, appointments, availability. So working with Lenny, working with Xavier, we started taking a look at our team member schedules, and they get here really, really early in the day. And they're not super productive, right? You get here at 7 o'clock in the morning, how much cleaning can you do? And then by 3:30 in the afternoon, it's a ghost town from a housekeeping perspective. When do the messes happen? As soon as the last team member leaves, right? At 4 o'clock, 4:15. So we said, look, we need to start improving the coverage of housekeeping services, the responsiveness of housekeeping services, our ability to adapt to call-offs as well. So kind of as we looked at all of these opportunities that we needed to address based on kind of resident feedback and operational needs, we said, we can't maintain this 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. schedule. We need to start pushing that back further. We also need to start looking at how efficiently we're scheduling our team members. We had some team members who were slammed back to back to back to back cleaning of resident homes. Fantastic, doing amazing work. We also had some team members that had a 3-hour gap in the middle of the day. For what reason, right? Yes, maybe there's something that special comes up, but in general, we're not consistently always managing those 3 hours of availability. So we need to start tailoring their schedules a little bit, which can be a little frustrating for some of the team members that maybe have had the same schedule for 15 years and whatnot. But that's something that management has to work through to make sure that everybody's working their fair share. And the other thing we're kind of shifting ourselves towards is we need to have backup coverage. And we need to have the time in the day to be able to respond to call-off. So you think if a team member comes in or doesn't come in for work and doesn't report, maybe they're feeling really ill and they don't think to kind of call in advance, the manager doesn't have a lot of time to be able to find someone to work that schedule. So then what happens? You don't get service, right? Oh, we'll come at a later date, we'll come at a later time, but realistically, you just missed the service, but that's something we need to provide to you. So we've kind of structured it that we have 3 floaters. Those 3 floaters are going to be working on normally common areas throughout the building, rooms, special functions, special cleanings, right? Doing some detailed cleanings in areas. But also, if someone calls off, the manager can take that team member's schedule and hand it to a floater, and that floater now goes and works that schedule so that, yes, you may have someone different show up at your door, and ideally the manager is calling you and saying, hey, Susie Q called out, but Sarah's got you covered, but you don't have that disruption in service. At the very most, it's just a different face at the door, but it's still at the same time. So hopefully it gives you a little bit of insight as to why we're making that push back an hour, improve the coverage, improve the reliability of the service, address some efficiency issues with the team members, and hopefully in the end you'll have a better housekeeping experience on a more consistent basis going forward. Yes, ma'am.
I have service scheduled for Mondays, Christmas, New Year's, and Martin Luther King Day, has no service.
Is it up to me to find somebody? Because I never got a call from housekeeping, never got a volunteer to come and take the place. I'd like to know how that works.
And that great observation, because that's something that we're trying to tackle as well, because not all of our team members take that day off. Remember, they gotta let us know if they're working or not, and we need to be able to understand how we're gonna be able to accommodate that. Now with a floater, I could say, look, on Tuesday, the day after the holiday, that floater is gonna help and cover all of the Monday appointments that were missed, right?
So who's gonna inform us?
So that's going to be, right now in the interim, it's Xavier.
Well, Xavier's not doing that.
Well,
I never heard from him.
Yes. So like right now, he's in the heat of it, trying to figure it all out, because right now he's untangling schedules, commitments that other team members have. I think ideal state is you would know well in advance. Oh, it's a holiday on Monday. I know on Tuesday someone's going to show up to perform my service. It's like trash pickup, right? Trash pickup doesn't happen one day. They're coming. They're going to skip you, or they're coming on Wednesday as a makeup day or Saturday as a makeup day. I want to get to the point where oh, it's a holiday on my regular service day. Someone's going to be here the very next day. Now, I still want them to communicate that to you, but right now they're in those 3-hour windows, they're spreading 1 day's worth of work over the course of a week, and it's not a terribly efficient way of scheduling for the team member. It's not convenient for the resident. So we're trying to get to that where the floater would be the one to pick up everything that was missed on Monday so that there's that kind of continuity of service. Joy?
Yes, what happens if, for example, Xavier's out sick for a week? Is there someone who can take over those duties for him?
So that's where that lead position comes in. So in housekeeping, there's 2. There's a supervisor and there's the housekeeping lead. Xavier came on board as the housekeeping lead and is holding down the supervisor role on an interim basis. So right now he leans on Lenny as well. But Lenny's also being stretched to cover director duties as well. So I'll be honest, right now, not a lot of bench strength there, but the kind of future state is yes, there's a department director for plant, a maintenance supervisor, a housekeeping supervisor, a housekeeping lead, so that there are people there who can step in. And also for someone like Lenny to step in, it's real hard to just hand Lenny a binder and say, here are all the schedules, So if this person calls out, here are the residents that are impacted. It's pretty Wild West right now. So we're trying to clean all of that up structure-wise, process-wise, so that we can more on a consistent basis perform and respond to changes. It's a little fly by the seat of our pants right now. Good questions. Anything else before I hand it off to Al? All right, thank you, everybody. Al?
Hearing none, I will move forward. Thank you. We can't close that, can we?
We can't close it.
Okay, so
Yeah, why don't I do this? I'll move it over a little bit.
yeah, that's good. We'll survive. That's right. Good morning. You'll have to pardon my appearance. I couldn't do anything with my hair this morning. I would say really that Joey is catching up on a lot of things that have been nagging around here for several years. And in my opinion, he's really catching up with a lot of things that we needed to have caught up a long time ago. But Joey finally showed up. And we appreciate that. Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Your coach.
I don't know who I am. I'm Al Porter. I'm the chair of your finance committee. Arlene, thank you for that unpaid commercial. That was very nice. I'm here to follow up with the weekend door hanger to catch up, which was to bring you up to date with our latest correspondence with management, and there's been a delay in that, for which I apologize. It was also to catch up with a lot of folks who don't attend the Wednesday resident meetings, so don't get a lot of information that we should be getting. And I can tell you that after that door hanger, a lot of folks asked for help in calculating the actual billing increase that they received. And I'll tell you, our takeaways are the finance committee, I believe, needs to conduct a series of meetings to help residents understand that statement. The second takeaway is that statement probably was designed by the guy that designed corn mazes in the field. I think it sounds like a joke, but I think it's pretty close to true. It is a very complex statement. We'd like to be able to change it, but it's a corporate-wide statement, and we might be able to influence at some point in time some minor changes in it, but I don't see we're able to do it very greatly. So the next best thing, I think, is to hold a series of meetings if we have enough people who are interested in learning a little bit more about that statement and how to pull information off it to calculate things. There was a large group of folks who could not calculate the amount of increase they were experiencing with the new billing. And you should be able to do that, and we certainly want to help you. Again, reference Florida 651 statute. You've heard all about that already. It is the governing statute for CCRCs in the state of Florida. The state of Florida is one of the better states in its position of regulating and informing. It's on the touchdown, as you've been told. You could also Google Florida Statute 651. It'll cover up your computer screen, and you really learn a lot of stuff, some that you wouldn't want to know, but I recommend it very strongly. Two things from the 651 statute that are important, relating to rate increases for CCRCs. First, the statute requires that the provider, LifeSpace, give residents a 60-day notice of any increase in fees. And that was done. That was done November the 28th in a very nice presentation, a PowerPoint. And they are required to justify any increase that exceeds certain inflation indices that are published. And they did that. Joey showed you the budget that had been prepared, and that in effect was the justification for the fact that we got a 9% increase. And just to refresh, I want to show you a couple of slides here from that presentation. Whoops, back up. Note the first bullet point. The service fee increase will be 9% on average. I think everybody knows that on average, that means there are some above and some below 9%. But I think we know now that there are none below 9%, so it's not an average, it's the lowest. And so that's the first of the notice issues. The second, this is the chart showing all of the life space communities. And if you look in the far right-hand side, the third stack from the right is VOTG. The five Florida communities stand out because they're all at 9% increase. Now, we, of course, have been unhappy with the 9% increase, but the 9% increase has been justified, and the statute allows life space to adjust its rates based upon their perceived need, which is the need they perceive that we have. So I don't think there's any hope that we could attack or do anything about that 9% increase, as much as we'd like to cut it down, because it is very large. And some of the justification of it having to do with the insurance can be questioned. But I think at this point, the Finance Committee believes there's no point in trying to challenge the 9%. One issue, however, has to do with the fact that that increase turned out to be an average of 10%, not 9%. So our assessment, Finance Committee assessment, is that there is a question that the 1% error in these notices may be challengeable, because the notice was incorrect or at least incomplete. And therefore, I think there's a question that it may not be in compliance with the statute. Now, that is a smaller increase, 1%, than the 9%, but it's also an increase that management has said that it intended in our communications. That was intended when they set those rates. They intended it to be 10%, or they at least knew that it was going to be 10%. And I think that's one of the things that has gotten so many people upset. Don't tell us 9 when you really mean 10. So at this point, we're meeting with management on the 16th of February. As you know, you've seen that. And we talked to senior management at that meeting. Our hope is to try to have management view this subject from the bottom up. We're at the bottom. Management sees the process from the top down. And I don't mean that as an insult, but they manage the whole enterprise. and we're a part of that. But we are the bottom because we're the source of revenue for independent living for the company. We're only source of independent living revenue for the company. We're the stakeholders. So we think it's a possibility that we can get the 1%. I didn't notice I didn't say probability, but it's a possibility we can talk the 1% away. No promises, and management has not been specifically challenged, although we asked them in the original communication to do so. So we're working on it. I can tell you we don't have a resolution. Stay tuned. We will give you a report after the February 16 meeting. We will also have, after that February 16 meeting, a town hall meeting here. I hope all of you can be here. We know that a number of people, as am I, are writing a letter when they pay their bill. And the letter that I'm writing will say, I'm protesting the 1% piece of this as being an unfair and improper increase because it exceeds the 9% increase that you noticed to us. I guess I can say, you know, it's only 1%, and if you say, well, what's the difference about one? Well, it's the principle as much as it is the amount. If you tell me 5% and you end up charging me 10%, I'm really red. But the principle is no different when you tell me 9 and charge me 10. So I hope I'm not misspeaking for the people here. I think that's what you asked me to do, the finance committee, that is. You asked the finance committee to do. We are looking out for your interests. We're not trying to destroy life space because we depend on it. We rely on it. And like Arlene, we like it here. We like our people. We don't want to go try to do something else. But we want to be fair, and we want to be treated fairly. One final point about billing methods. You saw in the door hanger a comment about the plan that we've been told about that will equate what they've identified as legacy residents, apartment standard rates, to equate those with the new residents' standard rates. We don't believe that that is a fair approach. Those of us who have been here a number of years have paid increases each year, and they've been pretty large, 32% in the last 3 years, and almost 50% in the last 4. Those are big increases. That's from where we started when we first moved here. Those increases keep us nearly abreast of what the new rates are. But the differing point is new rates are charged to either new apartments or apartments that have been refurbished, and the cost of refurbishing is $40,000 to $50,000 each apartment. Nobody has spent $40,000 or $50,000 on my apartment since I've been in it. So why do I need to be equated with people who move into a brand new apartment who has all new appliances, new flooring, new bathroom, new kitchen? It just isn't fair. We hope to talk about that, and I'm not trying to open another sore here, but it is something that we believe needs to be looked at in terms of fairness. Now that's going to cover what I wanted to say. Is there a question? Yes.
I closed contract to move here on December 22nd.
September 22nd.
December.
Okay. December 22nd. Okay.
And they never told me of an intended rate. It said my rate, it didn't say it would be changing within 60 days or 30 days or anything.
And
well, that's a lack of communication. I get a bill and all of a sudden within 30 days of moving in, they want a 9% increase. That doesn't seem like good communication to me.
Well, I can understand your concern. I think that's probably a sales question. Certainly, I'd have been told. I'd let Joey answer that because I don't have an answer for you.
Sorry to creep in back on you, Al. So the issue that you raised does apply to those 10 residents that moved in December. That's something that I've had conversations with sales about to understand. There's a process that is supposed to occur, and it does not look like that you did get the appropriate notice. So I'm working with sales and with business office to understand what kind of recourse we can do to be able to address that. So I appreciate you bringing it up, and it is an issue. Because you should have gotten that letter, which was distributed on November 30th, should have gone to those December closings as well. So stay tuned, you'll get something from me on that, but I'm still working to kind of pull the pieces apart on that.
Thank you.
Any questions that I can answer? Sorry. Hearing none, I will move off the stage. Thank you for your time.
Now we're going to pick up a new thing for these meetings. A lot of work, like you've just heard from Al, takes place in our committees. In his case, the Finance Committee. But another committee that produces great things for this community is the Plant Operations Committee. And Steve Gus has been allotted a slot on this agenda to make you aware of what he does as part of that plant committee and to encourage your participation in those kinds of operations. Steve?
Thanks, Basil. I've been the plant committee chair for a short time. I think I'm going on my 10th year. Okay, we're going to cover a couple items that are, I think, pretty important. The first, and it was brought up at the resident council meeting by one of the representatives of the building. And it was two items. One was the response that residents have when a new design, a new construction, a new something is involved in the community. What input does the residents have? And does anybody really give a damn or care? The second one was to improving the responses to the calls to maintenance, to repair something, to fix something, etc. And we've all fought this for years. So the first thing I'd like to say is that the committee members, every building is represented. Every building has a representative. The villas have 3 representatives, okay? So there's 9 people that, at least 9 people on the committee, and in our case now, I think there's 13. Each of the committee members attend a meeting once a month, as well as they will attend special meetings. If we have something like on the bottom of the chart, the Oaks, or the annex development, or the fixing up of something that's important, we will call a special session. The executive director, the plant director, and the maintenance supervisor all attend the meeting. It happens monthly. You are all invited to come. It lasts an hour as opposed to an hour and a half. And we probably live with it most of the time, don't we, Joey? I keep going back to that thing, and no, I won't get it.
There you go.
Now, I want to tell you a story before I get to this one. Back in 2016, and I'll make this quick, there was, we finally got the corporation to realize that we needed more than the health center we had in the backyard. And they came up with a suggested new health center that was very, very beautiful. It was 2 stories on all, it was built similar to across the street, but instead of one area being 2 stories, it was 2 stories all the way around. And they decided, they in their wisdom, that they would build it as you come into Village on the Green, the current entrance, Village on the Green, on the right side, behind the 29 residents that live on the 17th fairway. And all of a sudden, we got a call, we the residents, that we would get an opportunity to see this. And a fellow named Devlin, Brian Devlin, was the head honcho of development. He came down, he made a beautiful presentation. He said there's a little bit of a problem. The problem is that the Sable Point Association objected to it because they didn't want the area on the 17th to be fooled with. They wanted it as a grass area or wooded area, but no construction. However, he said, we will fight this and we will make this happen. A year later, when we, Village on the Green residents, paid for an attorney, 100%. Plus, by the way, we are also in that organization, and at the time we were with 33% of the population of that, so we paid 33% of that legal attorney. We finally got a little bit disgusted, and Basil and Ann and myself and a few other people decided we were going to take it in our own hands and attend a Sable Point meeting. We had a representative there, and his name is Dwight Sample, who is currently in the Oaks and not doing very well. However, Dwight told me at the time, as well as everybody who would listen, you're not going to win. So the residents took it into their own hands and made something happen. Now, 6 months later, we signed a covenant with Sable Point for that area, and they restructured the now Oaks, but the amount of time wasted, over a year and a half was wasted, and the cost went substantially higher, as we all know. So instead of it being a 2-story all the way around, we now have 1 wing 2-story. My point on this whole situation is when there's a war, the residents can make something happen. But I gotta tell you, trying to make a bigger library, we lose those battles. So we do have an influence. We do have an influence. However, the corporation is the final decision maker. And they look to the future, and their wisdom is what the corporate home offices have, I think. Okay, any questions to that thing? It goes on after that, but the major part of the story is we do have an impact, we can make an impact, but I would highly recommend that it be when we have a major issue, not every piddling little issue. It just doesn't make sense. Maintenance requests. Very simple. Call 407-571-5419. If you're lucky, you'll get Lenny. If you're normal, you'll get his recording. Put the issue in the recording. I would highly recommend the best way to do it. You can send an email. Some of us love the emails. Send an email. It's not the best way, but it will work. The problem with the email, if Lenny isn't there, it was out, he's the only one that can open his email account. Therefore, there is a time constraint or time spread. I would recommend again that on weekends or if it's catastrophic, you immediately call the numbers listed for security. Don't email, leave a message, only recall after 24 hours. The normal process we've agreed to is 48 hours from the time Lenny puts it in the TEL system to the time it's completed. I have reviewed the data. I have the data with me. 90% of the actions are completed in 24 hours. Not in an hour, but within the first 24 hours. I'm not counting weekends, okay? I'm counting during the week. And they're done in 24-hour period. Please don't call every 15 minutes. Some people just don't understand the process. I'm looking to the building reps, I'm looking for you all to work with me to tell people, do it one time, call in. If you don't hear anything or see a maintenance person in 24 hours, immediately contact your representative to my committee. Immediately. They know what to do. And they will make things happen. Lastly, I will say that it is important that in 2024 that we take a different attitude. And let's compliment and thank our maintenance people, the staff, and that are caring about us. And they really do. I mean, Big Mike, Security Mike, Jose, they really care about you. And they want to please you. So it doesn't hurt to thank them every so often. And also, there's a box out here, donating to an employee appreciation fund, which I think is very important to benefit them in the times when they may need an extra few bucks during the holidays. So please, do what you can. Let's have a different attitude. If something is drastically wrong or is catastrophic, they will be here. I mean, the Knussens had a water leak at 1 o'clock Saturday morning, 1 a.m. Saturday morning. There was somebody there within minutes. I mean, they care, and they want to do the right thing. That's the end. Thank you. You got any questions, anybody? Yes, ma'am. Why did I know it would be one of my favorite people? From New Jersey. Go ahead.
Building operations representatives the same as the building representative?
No.
How do we
But you
find
can
out?
call it, how do you know that? Well, Mike McDonough happens to be yours, or
Yeah.
Steve Gus,
Yeah,
one
I
or the
know,
other.
yeah, I know that now, but I didn't know for many years that you were.
Oh, well, you should have asked me.
Yeah, well, maybe you could tell us.
If you went to the lounge meetings that we had every month or every 3 months, they usually mention that.
Okay, we had COVID in there.
Yeah, I got it. For 2 years, you're right. Anything else?
Your committee book in the library also has that information.
That's right. That's right. In the library. By the way, let's support Al's effort. It's really important. This is a war. The Al Porter's Finance Committee's effort is a war. So please, let's support that war. That's important.
Support it how? Send it.
Whatever Al asked you to do, were you asleep again,
I
Goldstein?
want to hear you say it.
It's supported by send a letter, raise the issue, and please, back them. It's important.
Thank you very much, Steve. And I'll foot stomp that too. I guess my name was on that document as well. Let's do one thing. I'd asked Dr. Abbas to do the same for his healthcare committee, but we're down to 13 minutes in our 90-minute soiree. So, Doc, if you don't mind waiting for the next meeting, I'm going to ask you to do so, because I wanted to set time during this meeting for you, right? We said we're going to set time, and right now we got 12 minutes of you time. So have you got the mic back there? Where is Isabella? Okay, get the mic ready, because we're going to see some hands go up in a minute, and we want you to get to them, okay? Questions? This is your time. Anybody? No? No one? Everybody knows how to compute things. Stan, okay.
It's not a question, I don't need a mic, there are 15 boxes still left on the Super Bowl thing, it's $1 a square, fill it up.
Fill it up. That's the Goldstein of Benevolent Fund you're participating in. You might as well know that. Now, you had a question, sir. Can you now raise your issue?
You talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you, George.
Okay. For a number of years, I have gotten the medical notice of what my deduction is on the door hanger. This year, it was kind of stuffed in with other stuff, and I know people that never did see it. I mean, I happen to know that to go ask for it or go find it or search it, but other people don't know that.
Okay, the question was, why are the official letters that give us the deductions for medical expenses, things like that, being transmitted in bundles, not mailed, or is that what
Right,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it comes within all the meals that are being served there, and I don't read that section anyway. I get the meals when I get there. I don't worry about it ahead of time. So
You throw it out, huh?
Well, I just don't look at it much.
Joey, is there anything we could do with that? I got my notice the same way. Is that good enough for you, or do you want to make that a little more? How would you like it? What do you suggest?
Individual.
Well, it's individual, and the government and my past employer, all these people send me, comes in the mail.
Okay, I also would foot stomp that. I think George, maybe it could come with our invoices, because they're all posted individually. We get our invoices. Would it be possible to transmit those that way?
If it could lead to a delay in you getting that letter, if you're okay with that.
You know, that's one of the questions we had at a prior meeting, that people wanted it and they wanted it now, so we got them out as quick as possible.
Well, in my case, I don't file my taxes until my
Okay.
tax advisor didn't take them, so there was no problem.
Okay. Well, I think generally they do send them out individually. This year they went out, I think, as quickly as possible.
Isn't that letter generic?
Yes, it is a
It's
generic.
not personalized, right?
It isn't, yeah, it isn't.
Yeah. So I don't, just note, fine.
We'll take that. I don't know that there's any need to.
Well, no, I mean, if we're gonna talk about it, let's talk about it. So, the question is speed versus like the individualized to you. I can do either or. I could do both. I can post it to Touchdown. I'm happy to get that information to you in a way that's most accessible to you, okay? We gotta also understand, on January 1st, I had people asking me for the letter. That is the life I live, right? And then on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd. So as soon as I got that letter, I got it on a Thursday, I put it in the door hanger to get to you, okay? If you want it in your statement, I'm happy to put it in your statement. Here's what that means. Javi will print that and then sit there and fold it and stuff it in there. If you want me to mail it to you, 55 cents. Happy to charge you for it. Mail it to you. Just gotta give me some clear direction on that. Happy to cater to your best method, but
Well, in my case, I don't really care, okay, because I knew that was, my concern is that people who don't know that they have that deduction.
How many, just to take a show of hands in the room, how many of you are satisfied with the way in which you got it this time? I think you got your answer. Okay. Joy, you got a question?
Well, a comment. I never got it, and I know several people in my building said they never got it.
so I'll say weekly memo. Anybody remember what the weekly memo said? If you didn't get it, if you need an electronic copy of it, please reach out to me. Or Javi.
Your week is now.
Yep. Yep.
They didn't read
Want to
that.
make sure you get it. But also it's a two-way street, right? The communication. Need you to let me know that you didn't get it.
You know the copy of the weekly report that Joey is talking about. We do get that, and it did ask that question.
Well,
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I did say at the beginning, I want to give you more time, Zaf, the next session, so we'll wait for then. But I don't think anybody in here would mind a 7-minute adjournment ahead of schedule. Anybody object to adjourning this meeting? Yeah. Adjourn. Thank you.